Hi, I'm Rick Roller, and tonight Dan Naylor, who's running all the technical aspects of this Zoom class, and I are going to share with you some uh, questions. Now, I'm really excited about these questions tonight because they are all Utah law. So if you're coming to Utah and you're taking the Utah exam and they've waived the Utah portion of the test, you probably don't really care about this particular class. But if you need to take the Utah law test, which is pretty much everybody, I mean, there are exceptions, but for the most part, everyone's going to have to take this, particularly on the broker side. But anyway, if you're coming for that, this is going to be a very important class to you because these are Utah law concepts that you need to know. Okay, so we have a lot of them too. So let's go ahead and get started. The way we work these classes is we go through actual multiple choice questions. And we put them up on the screen, we talk about them, and then we explain them. So we're going to jump right in. The first one, Z owns and manages several homes that are rented. They have a real estate license. If they decide to inactivate their license, which is true? Okay. So here's someone called Z, and they own and manage several homes that they own and they rent them out. They're a landlord and they have a real estate license. Now, if you have a real estate license and you are working your own properties, there's nothing wrong with that. Your broker needs to be aware of what you're doing and how you're doing it. They're going to want to see all your paperwork. They may even have some suggestions on how your leases could be better. I don't know, but they need to see all your paperwork and what you're doing because they're responsible for you, even though these properties are not for sale or for rent, and they have to be managed in a certain way. And you have to take care of the money in a certain way. So, it's real important. But on the test, they're going to throw something like this at you, and then they're going to throw kind of a curve in it. And the curve they throw in this one, if you look at the stem, he owns and manages several properties that are rented and they have a license, but they're going to inactivate their license. Okay. So which is true? So they're going to put their license on ice. They figure they don't need it. That's fine. Okay. So let's look at our answers. Now, what I suggest you do on all these questions is you read the stem twice. That's the main question, which we've already done, before you look at the answers. And you try to figure out what it is that you're trying to go for. And then when you get the answers, they won't be so mysterious, and hopefully they won't lead you in the wrong direction. Let's look at them. A, they must sell the properties. Okay, so you own these properties or rentals, you're a landlord, you're an owner, but you're also a licensee, but you're going to put your license on ice. You're not going to have it active anymore. You're going to inactivate it. Do you have to sell all your inventory? Why would you have to do that? I mean, they're still your properties, okay? That one's probably not the best answer then, is it? Because you could think of a lot of situations where, they may want to put their license on ice, but they don't want to sell all their investments. That's very, very common. Being a real estate agent is a fantastic thing to do, particularly if you're out selling real estate or you're leasing or you're driving an income from it. I love it, but the point is, when you're doing it as a profession, and you need to be part of the MLS, and you need to have an MLS key to get into properties, and you need to put stuff on the multiple listing service when you're trying to share it with other agents to get it sold and whatnot. It's expensive to do all these things. We have dues. We have monthly dues we pay the MLS, and we have affiliation dues sometimes with your broker, and there's all kinds of fees involved, even with the board of realtors. It's, so they may just want to put their license inactive because they want to, they're really not using their license, and they don't want to give it up. They just want to go inactive. So, there could be a lot of reasons they're doing this, but A doesn't really feel right. Let's look at B. We left a Y out of here. So it's, they must cease to manage the properties. Well, why would they do that? They own them. They don't have to cease to manage their own properties. So both those are, kind of edgy, A and B. Let's look at C. They can continue to manage the properties they own. Hey, that sounds pretty good. Okay. So far, that's the absolute best. Let's look at D. They must notify all their tenants that their real estate license is inactive. Okay, this sounds pretty good, but the truth is the division is not so concerned that you're inactive. If you're inactive, you can't do anything with your license. Okay. What they're concerned with is when you go from inactive to active and you have an active license, that's when you have to tell people it's your license and whatnot. Now, I disclose to people, even if I had an inactive license, I would still disclose it to everybody. Why? Because you can't really over disclose. But on this question, obviously the best answer is the answer C. They can continue to manage their own properties. Just because they're inactive doesn't mean they can't manage something they actually own. There's an exemption there that you can manage your own properties. Okay. This is a great question. This is the type of question that makes you think and makes you choose. And but you can see by walking through it, if you can eliminate one or two, then all of a sudden it becomes a lot less challenging. I hope you got that one. This is the type of thing you're going to see and have to make a commitment on. Let's go to number 2, please. Okay, number 2 says a real estate license is required if you are. A real estate license is required if you are a salaried condominium manager employed by the association. Associations can hire people to maybe show the condos or just be a manager and manage the day-to-day functions of a condo. It's very common for the condo association to hire managers to come in and take care of the properties. There needs to be someone to call if a pipe breaks, or if something has to happen to that property, particularly in a hurry. And so usually these people, if they're just salaried, then they're just paid a wage, then they don't have to have a license. Be a regularly licensed employee of the owner who manages property for multiple clients. Okay, this is half true and half false, which makes it all false. The trick on this one is if you work for, let's say you work for an orthodontist, and by the way, dentists and chiropractors are two great groups of people you should be soliciting to all the time, particularly if you come across properties that are in the price range that investors might want to buy and keep them as rentals, or fourplexes and duplexes and things like that. But dentists love them, chiropractors love them, and a lot of times they will have someone in their office who's already there on their payroll, take the calls for potential tenants come in and whatnot, and they're a regularly salaried employee. Okay, that's fine. But the key there is he's only doing the doctor's units. That's it. But if the doctor had other doctors working there, and now this person is managing for more than one doc, well, I'll do your 3 and I'll do your 4. I mean, I'm already tuned in. I know how to handle it. Then that's multiple owners. And that's not, you only can do multiple owners if you had a license. Okay. But if you're a regular salaried employee and you're just working for one of the docs, that's fine. Or maybe all the docs buy everything together all the time. I've seen a couple situations, worked on a couple like that, where they had a little investment group, and every quarter, every 3 months, every 4 months, they wanted to buy another property. It was really, those are good clients to have. So, okay, so far, is it required if you are a salaried condominium manager? No. Regular salary employee who works for multiple properties, yes. A registered timeshare salesperson showing property on site. Okay, a timeshare salesman has a license. Now it's real easy to get. It's almost like getting a permit. They don't have to go to school. They don't have to take a test. They just go in and pay $50 and they are one. Okay, but nevertheless, it's still a license. It's just really easy to get. So a registered timeshare salesperson has a license. Okay. Look at D, regular salaried employee of a property management company with the primary responsibility to manage accounts payable. Okay, so you're being like a bookkeeper. Do you think you have to be licensed to do bookkeeping work? Probably not. Okay. Now, if you were doing real estate work, that'd be something else. So looking at number 2, then what the answer to this one is B, a regular salaried employee of the owner who manages property for several clients. Now, that's an interesting one, isn't it? And the key there is the multiple clients. So watch out for that one. I like this question because it requires you to carefully read and study the rules and regulations. And it's right, it's very clear if you've been through and you've read all those. And some of you say, well, you mean I have to know all those? You have to be familiar with them. You have to be familiar with them to the extent that you could pick out of a lineup of 4, eliminate 2 or 3, and then yeah, that's it. That's it. I remember now. So let's go ahead and highlight our answer, number 2. And we got it. Let's look at number 3 now. E has managed the office building for his employer for 14 years as an unlicensed salaried employee. Not a problem there. E has been asked to manage a fourplex in exchange for a percentage of the rents collected by friend who is leaving the country for a couple of years. So he's going to do it for his buddy for a couple of years. He's considering taking on this additional project. Okay. E has managed the office building. It's an office building for his employer for 14 years as an unlicensed salaried employee. Okay, sure had a lot of experience. He has been asked to manage a fourplex in exchange for percentage of the rent. So I want you to manage my fourplex and you get, I'll give you 15% of the rents. Okay, because I'm leaving town for a few years and I need your help. Okay. So he's considering taking this project on. So let's look at our answers now. A, E may legally manage his friend's fourplex without a real estate license, so long as the rents are sent directly to his friend. Now, of course, they're going to be out of the country, but still, you could send the money there if you had to. But it's not where the rents go that govern whether you would have to have a license to manage this building or not. Well, I'll manage the building, but if you got to send that directly to the owner's direct deposit, now that's not the key there. The key there is how many units is it? Is this just the same situation it was before, where it's just one owner? So let's hang on to that, but let's go to B. E must be a licensed real estate agent to manage the fourplex under these circumstances. Okay, so here's 2 that are diametrically opposed. If A is right, then B can't be right. But if B is right, then A can't be right. Okay, let's hang on to that. Let's go to C. E may show the property for lease, but may not arrange repairs because he's not licensed. Okay. Calling a plumber is more administrative than a lot of things that you can do. But when you're managing properties, you're going to be doing a lot of administrative stuff. But you're also going to be handling money and showing units and being aware of the local laws that govern rentals and whatnot. So there's a lot to know. But not arranging that's not enough to kick you into getting a license just to do repairs. If that other guy that was working for the dentist, what we mentioned before, they could arrange repairs if it's only the dentist's property. D, E may only manage others' properties if he has notified the division of his activities. Okay, I'm not a licensed E, but I probably should be, but I'm going to manage this for my friend. I don't okay, I'm showing up and telling you what I'm doing that's wrong. Just because you're doing that isn't going to work. All right, so we could throw out D, and then we've got the other 2, which is A and B, which are one would eliminate the other. It's probably one of those, huh? So which one do you think? Do you think it's A or B? because, you know, I mean, you need a license to arrange repairs. It's B, folks. E must be licensed to manage a fourplex under these circumstances. And what are the circumstances? Well, the owner's out of town. The owner is away. You're the only contact on this property. Is it a fourplex that makes it something he needs a license for, do you think? Would he need a license if it's a duplex? Is it the number of units that makes the license responsible? No. It could be a single family. It could be condos you're renting. Okay, it doesn't matter. But if you're taking on this project, you're going to have a license. It's an office building. Okay, does that make a difference? People aren't living there. No, not necessarily. It could be a medical office. It could be just a normal business office. But B is the correct answer here. Now, my hope is that going through these tonight, they'll kind of click in you. And if you review these again before you go take the test, I think it'll be very helpful for you. Let's look at number 4, please. Number 4 says, P uses a quitclaim deed to give ownership of his property to D so that D can sell it for him, since D doesn't have a real estate license, which is true. So what are you trying to do here? You're trying to circumvent the licensing law, because you know that if someone is an owner, they could sell their own property and they don't have to have a license. But in this case, what really happened here? Well, someone tried to circumvent the law. B could be fined for circumventing license law. Okay, that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to circumvent the law. B, P is exercising an exemption to the license law. If it was legitimate and P was the owner of the property for years and years and whatever, then maybe that would be okay, because they were already in ownership. But to change the circumstances around so you prevented him, you thought, from getting a license is not right. Look at C. D can advertise a property through the Association of Realtors. Heavens no. You know, the Association of Realtors, be it a state, national, or local board, is one of our private clubs that we join. Okay, and we do it. A lot of us do it because it gives us access to the multiple listing service, you know, where we can share our listings with other agents. D can ask for higher commission because, you know, a licensed agent, after all, can. You can ask for any commission you want, whether you are justified in getting it or not. But that doesn't sound right, does it? All right, now looking at these, could probably throw out D. B is exercising an exemption. No. Nope. No. P is the owner of the property. You know, they're already exempt. P could sell his own property without using anybody, but yeah, A is their correct answer. You got a little peek there. D could be fined for circumventing the license law. Just because you set it up, they're going to look at form over function. And yeah, okay, the form is there, but what is really behind this? The function of this was that P should have gone out and hired someone that actually had a license. Okay, you can't just take your friend D and say, well, you're a great salesman, why don't you sell it for me? I'll put you in titles so that you can get away with it. No, it's not going to work. Who's going to turn anybody in on that deal? Some jealous agent that wanted the listing. Okay. All right, let's go to 5, please. Excuse me. All right. The real estate license is not required for, okay, I don't need a real estate license if, reword it a little bit. A, an attorney that sells real estate for a living. If you're an attorney, and I've known a lot of attorneys that sell real estate for a living, and you know, some of them are very close friends of mine. They got into law, decided they didn't like it. It was too adversarial. Hey, but having a law degree and a law background, you know, sure made sure their contracts were written well. You know, it was great, and it can be a big help. B, someone acting as an agent in a single transaction for a commission. The problem is you know, when you get a commission, you have to have a license. So Those first two don't sound very good, do they? C, a trustee selling real estate under a trustee's deed. A trustee's deed is a loan. It's a loan document. And or it's used in a series of loan documents. Okay, what you're going to see a trustee's deed if there's a trustee's sale, and that's in the event that there's a foreclosure, a default, and then a foreclosure. So it's one of those series of documents that secured the bank's loan on by securing that property against the money that they had lent out. So if they're selling it under a trustee's deed, then it's in foreclosure, and that's something that they could definitely do. So that's not required there. So that's probably our answer, right? Yeah, it is. Look at the next one. A salaried property manager receives a leasing commission. It's very common as a property manager, or if you had a series of property managers that were working for you, to give them a commission when there's a tenant turnover. It's very common. They got to go out and find a tenant, get them pre-qualified, get all their information together, put all the documents together. It's a lot of work. So, they ought to get paid for it. And if on residential rentals, it's usually a shorter flat rate fee, but on larger rentals, where there's leasing out 20,000 square feet and whatnot, the commissions can be as large as selling small houses or condos. So when is a license not required? When a lender is exercising their lien rights against a property and they're selling something in a foreclosure, which would be a trustee's sale. Okay. Let's look at 6, please. Number 6 says, which of the following have the authority to make rules for Utah real estate agents? Okay. Which of the following have the authority to make rules for you and I once we're licensed? Okay. Is it the Real Estate Commission, the Division, the Association of Realtors, the Executive Director, Department of Commerce? Okay, let's take it from the bottom up. The Executive Director of Department of Commerce is a state position. They work under the Department of Commerce, like it says here, and the Executive Director of Department of Commerce, and they're appointed by the governor. Usually the department head of commerce, the gentleman the governor put in that position, has a lot of say in who he wants his underlings to be in the different departments that he's over. But sometimes the governor has a choice there too. So, but the executive director of the Department of Commerce, they're a regulator. They're not a rule maker. And they're there to make sure staffing is on time and that they're doing their job and whatnot. Okay, the Association of Realtors has nothing to do. That's our private club. It has nothing to do with Utah real estate laws, regulations, and they certainly wouldn't make the laws and regulations. The Division of Real Estate or the Real Estate Commission. Okay, now the Division of Real Estate is what that executive director of the real estate division does, and his boss is the executive director of Department of Commerce. Okay, so the executive director of Department of Commerce is even one more step removed. So it's, the division are the people that are there every day to make sure the paper flow happens and that the everything is administered the way it should. The people that make the rules are not any of these except for A. It's the Utah Real Estate Commission. Now, the commission is 5 people, and they are selected by the governor. They're approved by the Senate in Utah, and they serve terms, usually around 5 years or so. And they're staggered. There's 5 of them. They have to be from 5 different counties. You need to know everything about the commissioners because there's like 4 or 5 different questions that could be asked in there. But one of the main things they do is make the rules. The other thing that they do besides making the rules, they enforce the rules. So they make the rules, but they also say, we're going to fine you this much money, or we're going to take your license, or we're going to suspend you. We're going to do something because you did something wrong. Okay, let's go to number 7, please. Who is primarily responsible for enforcing the rules and regulations related to real estate transactions? Okay. Primarily responsible. Now, the AG, well, they're the chief law officer for the entire state. They're over everything. That's a big job. they're not primarily responsible. Okay. The Division of Real Estate, that sounds really good. The Utah legislature, give me a flipping break. I mean, they only come in for a few months every year. They're not the regulators that are there every day. In a principal broker that's running a real estate office for himself or for someone else, no. So out of all these guys, it's the Division of Real Estate. Probably gave that one away, but you know, obvious, but it's so obvious that maybe it's hard. I don't know. But if you look at this a couple of times, you're not going to miss this one on the test. Let's go to 8, please. The Board of Realtors differs from the Real Estate Division in that the Board of Realtors differs from the Real Estate Division in that the division, A, has regulatory authority. Okay. B has a code of ethics. The division doesn't have a code of ethics. That's our private club. That's the Board of Realtors. C helps realtors work together in industry. That's exactly what they're there for. And D is a private organization. Those last three are all about the Board of Realtors. Okay, so that only leaves us A, and that's the correct answer. You know, it is you know, it's what they do. They have regulatory authority. Okay, they don't make the rules, but they administer the rules. You know, the investigators are part of the division that come out and make sure that, you know, they try to determine whether there was a violation or not. Number 9, a licensee has a maximum of 10 days to respond when. You got 10 days to respond when. Okay, licensee, 10 days to respond. Okay, A, their broker notifies them that their broker's license has expired. Okay, that would be really a bad thing because your broker's license expired. That means everyone under your broker, it's nice that they called and told you, but you're all inactive. You can't be active unless you're connected by the umbilical cord to a broker. Well, if your broker if your license expired because he forgot to renew it, that's going to be a mess because all your listings will be canceled, right? Because you don't have a broker any longer. That means they're fair game. If word got out in the street, all your competitors could go knock on those doors because you don't have a listing anymore. The same thing if your broker died. There's some people that chase ambulance after those listings. Now, there is a way to prevent all this. One of them would be to, the main way to prevent it is to have your brokerage actually be an entity. Entities don't die, you know, so you can have a corporate broker. It's going to require a little bit of jumping through a few hoops, but you can get that done. Now, the advantage of that is, an advantage of you working for a broker that is a non-breather or an entity, is that you won't be in a position where you have worked your tail off and now you got 6 fantastic listings and they're all going to sell in the next few weeks. You're so excited to get these 6 listings, but then your broker lets their license expire. They screwed up. Oh, what? You just lost those 6 listings. But if it was an entity, you know, it probably didn't expire. They're probably watching it more closely and whatnot. But there's a lot of good reasons to have your broker as an entity. But the main one is that they're a non-breather, so they're not going to die. So if your broker did die, the division allows a reasonable time for another living and breathing broker to come in and take over that entity. But the nice thing is you don't lose your listings. Okay. All right. Licensee is minimum 10 days to respond. A doesn't work. They receive an offer for a property they've listed. There is no response deadline. Okay, you can never respond if you wanted to. It's kind of rude, but there is no line or paragraph or section in your offer that says that, okay, if you have to let me know what they said within 5 days or something, and not unless they put in a custom line. Okay, C, they're notified their license is expired. D, they receive notice from the division about a complaint. Okay, the correct answer to this one, guys, is D. And there's other ways to phrase this and get that idea across, but they do want you to know this. They want you to know that if the division files a complaint against you, you have 10 days to respond to the division. They want to hear your side of the story. So you got 10 days, and they will have a number of different questions that speak to that issue. Whether it's this question, which I have not seen as much, but I like this question because it does look real similar to one that you're going to see that kind of misleads you. This one is very clear and it doesn't mislead you. It's you have to respond to any complaint from the division within 10. Okay, that's a good one. Number 10, the division of real estate will look into a commission dispute. If a commission dispute is when someone's arguing over the commission, okay? So when will the division get involved with something like this? A, licensing law was violated. B, the commissions were below 4, they were above 10. Obviously, those two are wrong. I mean, commissions are negotiable. It can be below 4, it can be above 10. The dispute is between a broker and your agent. Okay. The division will not get involved with disputes between the broker and the broker's agents. They tell you, you guys sit down and work it out like adults. And if you can't, go sue each other. Okay. So the correct answer, number 10, then, guys, has got to be A. License law was violated. That's the only time they're going to get involved on commissions. They don't, they just don't do it. That's something we do in our private club. The Board of Realtors and the Utah Division of Real Estate, it does not get involved with that. It's the Board of Realtors is where we go to fight out commissions. And this could be a fight between two agents in one office, in the broker's office, which primarily the broker's going to sit them both down and they're going to work that out. Or it could be two agents in two different offices. And, there was a co-op sale, and now they're saying, well, you only pay me 2.5%, but the MLS said you'd pay me 3%. I want my other 0.5%. And they say, well, yeah, but we took less than what we wanted. And so I lowered the commission, but I didn't tell you about it. It's going to be a mess. So if there's a dispute over something like that, that's something that we take to the board, not necessarily, and the division is not going to get involved. Only if there's a license law violation, which usually there isn't. Number 11. Which of the following penalties might the division impose if there is illegal activity in a brokerage regarding a trust account? Okay. The auditors have come out. It looks like that, you've been dipping into the trust account to cover personal expenses or other problems. So what's going to happen here? What might the division impose? What might they do? A, jail time for the broker. Can the division put you in jail? Or is that more what a judge does? The judge does that, not the real estate division, thank heavens. So it's no jail time from the division. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to get a little jail time if it was a criminal act, because what will happen is the division, through the Attorney General's office, will refer that out to the county attorney, and then they'll sue you and they'll put you in jail. B, fines and a cease and desist. Now, that's what the division does. They do fines and cease and desist. Okay. That's number 11. Hang on to that one. Seizure of broker assets. Yeah. The division can't come out and say, okay, I'm taking that photocopier. We need a new one. And I like these 2 desks. They're really cool. And, they would go good in the decor down at the division. They can't do stuff like that, guys. Who could seize brokerage assets? Well, the court could put a levy on that kind of stuff. Or they could send you down and do community service, which is another thing a judge might do, not the division. All right, so out of these, guys, it's got to be B, fines and cease and desist, okay? That's what they can do. I don't know why we see so many blind ads. Guys, when you get licensed, you're going to have to take a 12-hour new agent class, your first renewal, and in it we'll go through a lot of these things again. But one of the things they make us go over in your 12-hour new agent class is blind ads, because you have to have the brokerage name in all your ads. And they get really chapped if you don't, and there's going to be a fine. If they catch you, there's going to be a fine. And that could be an additional sign on the property. There's some properties I've seen in the past where they put a big banner sign because the side or the backyard backs up to a major street. And so they want to put a for sale and your name, Rick, and then my phone number, and that's it. Well, that's going to get you in trouble, because that's a blind ad. You got to have a brokerage name on that sign. So it's not that difficult. Any type of ad you're doing, what internet site, you've got to identify your company name. So, it's something you just really have to do, or you're going to get in trouble. Number 12, please. If an agent breaks a real estate rule or statute, okay, rules are made by the commissioners and statutes are made by the legislature, who would they go before for a hearing? Would it be the commission, their broker, the director of the real estate division, or the Utah legislature? Well, you could probably figure it's not going to be the legislature. Give me a break. And the director of the real estate division, there are situations where you could go in and have a discussion with them and whatnot from time to time. Maybe they want you to serve on a committee or something. It's not a negative thing. Maybe it's a positive thing. But that's not where you go for a hearing. Okay. Your broker, well, that's not a formal hearing also. That's just to sit down with your broker. So the correct answer to this one, guys, is A, the real estate commission. Now, the commissioners only meet once a month. And when they're holding hearings and whatnot, they try to get it all done on those days. If they need extra time, they'll take extra time. And sometimes they do. But it's the real estate commissioners that are going to do the hearings. Okay. Now there's going to be someone there from the division that's going to administer the thing, and make sure the chairs are there, and, make sure everyone has a glass of water if they want, they're more on an administrative type, secretarial type job. There's also going to be one of or more of the investigators there. And because they're the ones that are actually kind of bringing the case, and the AG's office is going to have one of their lawyers there. There's going to be a lot of people there. Okay. I understand, but who's really in charge of those hearings? It's the real estate commission. Okay. The real estate commission. Number 13, when a licensee is found guilty of fraud, the real estate commission can impose. Okay. What could they do to you? Well, you could probably figure these last three: property seizure, jail time, and community service, since it's like the similar question we just went through, that only courts can do those things. Okay, so it's not going to be the commission. It's going to be fines and license revocation. Or they could suspend you as well. Or they could send you back to real estate school for more training. Or they could do a combination of these things. Okay, and if you really chap them off, they're going to revoke you. We don't want bad apples in our business. We want good people that follow through and do what they say they're going to do and have integrity. And particularly in our state, we want good people representing us and in our industry. And we weed out the bad apples. And a bad apple doesn't mean they had bad intent. It just could be they're just not up to this type of work. They can't seem to write a contract. There's a lot of skill involved in getting things done here. So the answer, let's highlight it, please, is fines and revocation. That's what they can do. Let's look at number 14. Okay. Who may conduct an informal hearing? Oh, informal. Okay. Most things start out informally. This is not a bad thing, because they're still talking to you. They don't have to have a hearing, and you don't have to hit the newsletter. It could be they could give you just what's called a correction letter. Correction letter is like a gift from the real estate gods, because it's private. It doesn't get in the newsletter, so the whole world doesn't know about it. And it's a good thing. So these informal things are not bad. I mean, well, yeah, you screwed up, but I can see why you did that. We're going to make you do this and that, but, we're not going to take it to a full hearing. Okay, a formal hearing. So who would do this? Well, a staff member is a correct answer. I'll just give it to you. The broker who was not involved in the transaction. When you get a broker that's hearing something went wrong and whatnot, that's probably going to be at the board of realtors level, and it's going to probably be in a ethics hearing or a commission dispute. And they're going to get a broker that was not involved. Some crusty old broker that's been around, seen a lot of things, maybe even done one or two. But they want someone that really has an insight to the business. You can't, and it can't be a broker that's with your own company, and it can't be a broker that you've done a deal with recently or have a current deal under contract. It's got to be someone that's kind of neutral, but they've been around and they know. Okay, but that's not an informal hearing. Okay, it's going to be someone at the real estate division. Where you see these guys is at the board of realtors when we're arguing over either ethics or we're arguing over commissions. C, the broker of the agent involved. D, an unlicensed neutral party. Okay, so the correct answer to this one, guys, it's got to be someone from the division. It's got to be informal. This is the way you want it to go. You don't want it to go formal because all of a sudden there's a lot more disclosure requirements and people are going to find out about it. Hey, you get a complaint at the division. And how long is that going to be on your record? Well, as long as you could Google it. So, not everyone does that, but if you're out trying to compete for a listing and they Google your name and there's 3 bad complaints on there in the last 4 years, they may decide you're a little bit too much on the edge for them. Number 15, please. Which of the following issues could possibly be dealt with by an informal hearing? Okay. All right. Well, informal hearing, which one could be done? All right, let's look at them here. 15. All right. Action on a sales agent's license that's been triggered by adverse action with the sales agent's broker. Okay. Adverse means opposed to. So action on a sales agent's license that has been triggered by an adverse action with the sales agent's broker. Okay. B, revocation of a license due to improper conduct. That's something at the division. Revocation of a timeshare registration at the division. Cease and desist orders at the division. Okay. So if it's going to be revocation, if it's going to be cease and desist, that's got to come from the commissioners. It's not going to be some staffer. So these are all, they've gone to the formal hearing. Okay. The only thing that hasn't gone to the formal hearing is A. Action by a licensed agent has been triggered by adverse action with the sales agent's broker. Now that could be something the broker did. Maybe he put your license inactive and didn't tell you. I don't know, but it's this one. We're looking at A, action of the license. It's been the other 3 revocations and cease and desist. They have to come from formal hearings. All right, number 16, a hearing will likely be closed to the public if the subject of the hearing includes financial disputes, contract disputes, financial complaints less than $1,000, or your moral character. Well, financial and contract disputes and financial complaints less than, those are kind of, they're somewhat similar. The correct answer to this one, gang, is your person's moral character. They want to protect you as much as they can, so they're probably going to make that hearing private. You can go to the hearings as long as they're not private, and you can sit there and listen to the commission. Dan goes to most of these meetings. The commissioners meet every month, and Dan's usually there, and now during COVID and whatnot, they didn't meet as a unit together. They had phone meetings. So, Dan was there on the phone meeting, but we're through that finally. And so what happens is you actually go and and you sit down, and you can get, and it's a good thing to do occasionally if you happen to be downtown or want to be downtown. For one thing, you should try to get to know the commissioners. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if you could call 3 of the 5 commissioners your friend? They knew you, that you reached out to them and asked them for help or advice or whatever, and they got to know who you were. It might go better if they knew you because they knew of your integrity and whatnot. Then if a little issue came up, that they could go informal or formal. It'd be much better to keep it informal. Number 17. If a real estate license commits fraud, what can the real estate commission do? If you go out and commit fraud. Now, fraud doesn't have to be something involving real estate. It could be insurance fraud. I mean, you could, I know that the insurance company get a little upset when every 3 years, one of their insured's golf clubs gets stolen. Every 3 years, we're like clockwork, they get stolen right out of the garage. It's incredible. So they want to place a claim so they get a new set of clubs. The insurance companies got together a number of years ago and they formed another organization, and they report all the claims to this other organization. So you might think, well, that's private information. No, not if they're matching it up. And if they see that, even though you switched insurance companies over the last 12 years, once or twice, but those golf clubs show up like, every 3 years, they're going to get an investigator after you. They don't put up with fraud. So you got clipped on that. Well, is that going to affect your real estate license? Absolutely, because it shows you're a dishonest person. We don't want dishonest people in real estate. Okay. It's too much temptation for you. So you committed fraud. It had nothing to do with your real estate license. You're still going to lose it. Okay. A, they cannot do anything. The agent must be tried in a regular court. Well, okay. But how do you know they committed fraud if they haven't been caught and tried in a regular court already? That's our answer. Actually, is the next one. They can revoke their license and issue fines. Okay, that's B. That's the correct answer. They can revoke the license and jail time. No, only a judge can put you in jail. They can suspend their license and seize their bank accounts. No, they can't do that either. They can definitely suspend your license, but they can't seize your money out of your bank accounts. A judge could do that through a court action. Okay. Okay, we have one more tonight, number 18. And number 18 says, if a licensee violates Utah license law, they may face, fines up to 10, 5, 1,000, or 3,000 per violation. Right now, the cap on fines is 5,000. Well, then how do you see all these fines for 20,000, 25,000, and 23,000? And the biggest fine I ever saw was $400,000 plus. That's a huge fine. Tons and tons of violations. That guy that had 400,000, he was doing something wrong. He was a big property manager. He had hundreds of properties he was managing, and he was doing them wrong on all of them. So, in more than one thing. So, man, it racked up. And he wasn't very forthcoming and cooperative with the division either. So they tried to make an example of him, and they did. So the answer to this one is B, fines up to $5,000 per violation. But that doesn't mean they can't find 3 violations. Charge you for each one of them, okay? It's per violation. So, they're going to get you if they can. The cap on fines used to be $500, but then people weren't feeling the bite, I guess. Maybe with gasoline at over $4 a gallon again. It's like a couple of tanks of gas, or it's filling up your RV. Yes, Oh, well, anyway. Okay, folks, we appreciate you being here. These can be very helpful to you if you actually use them. And I do have something else I'd like to share with you. As you get into real estate, you're going to reinvent yourself. You have to. Getting into real estate is like jumping into a crucible. where you get burned up and all the dross is burned out of you, and the pure gold is all that's left, the pure material. But you're going to have to reinvent yourself a couple of different times to get to a point where you can actually be effective in working with other people. So here's a word of wisdom, words to live by. Think not of yourself as the architect of your career, but as the sculptor of your career. Expect to have to do a lot of hard hammering, chiseling, scraping, and polishing to make it work, okay? So think of yourself like that. Thanks for being here tonight. We appreciate you. These are all recorded. You can get them off Dan's YouTube channel. And they're all there, guys, and it's a great way to review. Also, if you have questions about any of these or any other issues, you're welcome to call the school, or you could call me in my personal secret cell phone number, which is 801-556-8000. That's 556-8000. Operators are standing by. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You guys, this is the perfect time to get in the industry. Absolutely perfect time. Hey, if you want to know why, give me a call. I'll tell you why. But I'm telling you right now that a lot of your competition is saying, well, I don't know how to sell houses. I mean, I put up a sign and nobody called for a whole week. It's back to learning how to sell houses, guys. And so it is a perfect time to get into business. In times when the market is actually receding a little bit, in times when things are not selling as fast as throwing up a sign and having 12 offers within 10 hours, okay, that's when they really need a good agent, okay? I mean, come on, when there was 25 buyers for every house in the valley, did they really need an agent? Yeah, they did, because you had to get in there, you had to get your offer written well and everything else. But the point is that they need you now more than ever, and it's a perfect time to get into business, get established, and to buy some rentals too. Anyway, thanks for being here tonight. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. And we will see you next time.